Welcome to Knife Chats. If you like what you see, give it a thumbs up, leave a comment, share it with friends, subscribe, and ring that notification bell. Thank you.
Have you ever came across a knife that you just look at and you think, man, that knife is stunning, and you really, really love that knife, and you really want that knife, and then you get that knife and it's like, oh dear, it's not quite as good as I thought it was, but man, do I still like the way that knife looks, and is it ever a cool knife? Well, I've just described the Russlock for you, the Case Russlock. It is one of my favorite knives from Case, and it's also a knife from Case that I rarely, if ever, carry or use, and that's why, as much as I really love the Case Russlock, I will probably never own more than just the one I have now. Let me explain. The Russlock is a sort of traditional knife in that it is a slip joint, but it is also a liner lock. And this is a knife that was designed by Case in 2000, the year 2000, so it is not that old. It's only about 19, 20 years old right now. And it's not a very big knife either, as you can tell just looking at it. The actual handle is only 3.5 inches long, but because of the extended tang there, it actually comes in at 4 inches long overall. And what that extended tang is for is so that you can open the blade one-handed. So you can just basically grab the knife and then turn it around and open it one-handed. A little trickier here in front of the camera. I'm at a very bad angle. And then because of the liner lock, the blade is locked in place. And just got a really cool looking blade there. And if you notice, it's basically a clip blade, but it is a trailing point or upswept blade also. Notice, if you get it straight there, notice how that curve is just kind of flipping upwards. And as you can tell, the blade is not that long. It is only just shy of, well, just over 2.5 inches long, no matter how you're measuring it. It's got a cutting edge that is right at 2.25 inches. And it also has a nice swedge on the top there. So you've got a really good point at the very end there. Notice how thin that blade gets. It's just a wonderful blade. And a lot of people call it the Woody Woodpecker knife because, well, when you got that blade out, kind of looks like Woody Woodpecker, especially with the extended tang coming off the back of the head there. And not too many knives like that you can open one-handed. It's like the old peasant knives, and then you've got the lock here to keep it open, and you can push that down and then you can close it. I'm a little better with it off camera, but it is still hard to open because if you notice here, that is a slip joint. It's got a back spring, so the pressure of the back spring is what keeps the blade closed, and then the liner lock keeps the blade open. So you have two different ways that this blade is operating. The typical closing is with the slip joint. You can hear the snap closed, but the liner lock keeps it open. And that's the part that I don't like about the Russlock, because that liner lock prevents me, a left-hander, from safely closing this blade left-handed. I can barely even start moving the blade because it is so hard. I can barely even open the knife left-handed because it's just very difficult, and it's not the safest thing in the world. Even off camera, I have difficulties opening the knife left-handed, and I have to close it right-handed. It's one of those knives where I'm actually, even though I'm left-handed, it's much easier for me to open and close this knife right-handed than left-handed. And that would mean that I'm going to be opening the knife right-handed, changing hands to use it, and that's kind of goofy. Who wants to do that with a knife that's supposed to be one hand opening? Because both hands are getting involved now. I've got to switch hands to use the knife that I just opened right-handed, and that's the thing that just irks the hell out of me with the Russlock. The fact that it has that slip joint in the back to hold the blade closed and a liner lock to keep it open. Quite frankly, they could have either made this knife with a much lighter slip joint or back spring so that there wouldn't be so much pressure on it, or they could have just eliminated the liner lock and not had it a locking blade. If this was not a locking blade, it would also be usable in more places, because some places make it illegal to use a locking blade. The blade length is terrific at 2.5 inches. That's legal just about everywhere, but the locking mechanism makes it illegal in some places. So if they were to rejigger this knife and get rid of the liner lock and just call it, the Russell slip joint or something, I would really love this knife. It would be fantastic. Or if they were just to eliminate the back spring and not make it so strong and just leave the liner lock here to act as friction to keep the blade closed, then it would be a lot easier to operate either left or right-handed. And yes, you could actually keep that blade closed with the liner lock. I know that because, where is it at? Showed this knife before, my Indian head nickel knife. That is held in place purely through friction and by the liner lock there. That liner lock keeps the blade from moving around. And you can actually, try and shake it open, do whatever you want. It's not going to move until you put pressure on it to open it. And this one I can easily open and close left-handed, despite it being a right-handed liner lock. So if they would have done that with the Russlock, this would be left or right-handed, a little more difficult for the lefty, but right now it's dang near impossible for a left-handed person to operate this knife. And that's my problem with what is probably one of the coolest knives that Case ever came out with. And I really and truly wish that they would come out with a new version of the Russlock without the liner lock. Be a little bit slimmer for one thing, and it would be legal in more places, and you also wouldn't have this liner lock interfering with your grip, because that does cut into your hand a little bit when you're using it. It makes it a little uncomfortable. But if they were to just make this a basic standard slip joint without the liner lock, this knife would be really, really cool. I would like it a whole lot more. And that would be my advice to Case. Make the Russlock without a lock. So come out with the Russell slip joint or something, or the Russell Case slip joint. I think that'd be a kind of a cool knife, and you can just keep it looking like your basic Russlock. It'd be legal in more places. You'd be able to sell it in more places, and it would be actually a little more functional, especially for people who are left-handed. Any case, that's my thoughts on a knife that I really, really like, but it just has one major flaw that prevents me from buying more of them and prevents me from carrying it. And that's because this is truly a right-handed knife that is not at all comfortable for a left-handed person to use.
Hi, and if you're also interested in a non-locking Russlock, just a basic slip joint Russlock, consider contacting Case Knives from their webpage at caseknives.com, or maybe you could send them a letter at W.R. Case & Sons Cutlery Company, P.O. Box 4000, Bradford, PA 16701, or give them a phone call at 888-442-1932. I know they listen to their fans, And what better way to get a non-locking rust lock than to actually ask them about one? Thank you for visiting Knife Chats. I hope you enjoyed your time here. If you did, please give us a thumbs up and consider subscribing to the channel and ringing that notification bell so that you will be notified when the next episode of Knife Chats is up online. Thanks again. See you soon.